Hello, everyone. This is your host, Sanjeev Goyal. This month, we are bringing a very special guest. He's a very household name in the IIT community. He's a Padma Shri Award winner and a phenomenal person and a big go giver. So, Kiran, welcome to our show.
Well, thank you.
So, Kiran, you are IIT KGP alum and you taught at IIT Delhi. So, can you talk a little bit about your experience at IIT KGP? Any interesting story you would like to share with us?
Oh, I grew up in IIT Kharagpur because my father was one of the first professors of any IIT, for that matter.
Wow.
Because IIT Kharagpur was the first IIT, and he was the head of department of mathematics. And so I actually grew up in, as I said, in the first IIT, that's IIT Kharagpur, and it was all a jungle. It was actually a forest which was cut down to make IIT.
Wow.
And so we used to have snakes, elephants, tigers, all visiting us, off and on. So it was a very, very interesting stay. My growing up years were very, very lovely. And it also had, the first IIT, that's IIT Kharagpur, had top people from all over the world who had come to, because Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru wanted to make it a real powerful place. So he got people from different parts of the world. I still remember Professor Mikhailov, who was in the USSR Academy of Sciences. He was there. Then there was Professor Norbert from Poland. He was there. Then there were people from USA, Mrs. Nelson, Dr. Mrs. Nelson. And I remember these as I was growing up. I'm very, very, very small. And they were extraordinary people. I still remember Professor Mikhailov. He, can you see me?
Yes, I can see you.
Yeah. No, he actually was so good in chess that he put an ad in the paper saying that he would remove his queen and his rook, and he challenged anyone to come and try to beat him.
Wow.
He had given a prize money for it also. And I remember people coming from Kolkata trying to beat him, but nobody could beat him. He was so good. He was a very top mathematician, Professor Mikhailov. So we grew up, in that atmosphere of wonderful academicians, and also, at that time, because it was a secluded place, and because it was like sort of like being made into a very wonderful place. So I remember students would also come who would be very, very good. I still remember it was almost like a Gurukul, in the sense that PhD students would come and stay at our house.
Wow.
I've never seen that before or afterwards. And they would, you remember Professor M.K. Jain in IIT Delhi?
Yes, I remember Professor Jain.
Yeah, Professor M.K. Jain was my father's student.
Oh,
so
wow.
And he was a PhD student. He used to come to our house, and my father used to sometimes go abroad for lectures and all, and he would be staying at our place looking after us.
Wow.
So yeah, it was something. It
was
really
time.
Yeah, it was like like a Gurukul atmosphere. And I also remember that during that time, there was this thing that was started, which was called the Green Amateurs Night, which was an overnight session. It was by one of the staff members, and he used to organize a whole night of Indian classical music. But we were not interested in classical music, but he used to do it with a lot of difficulty. I still remember that also. But we used to go there, and we'd sit at the back and play cards and go to sleep. And we were not interested in this business. But he did something which was remarkable. He planted, as I said, a seed into us, which is still growing into a massive tree from which I derive nutrition every day more and more.
Oh, you have done such a phenomenal work. Now, Spic Macay has more than 500 chapters globally, and you have like.
I wouldn't say like that. I would say we are operating in more than 500 places. We are
Wow.
operating, in fact, more than 500 places and about 50 abroad. But actually, ours is a voluntary group. So what happens is it's like a flowing river. That
True.
sometimes one chapter becomes very strong and next day it disappears. So next day another chapter comes up. So it
So,
all
Kiranji, what really transpired that, I understand the classical music is phenomenal. In fact, I am the most musically retarded person. I bought this cello, which I could never play. That's my regret in a way, but maybe someday I'll find time to learn it. What was going on? Because people from IITKGP, they came and started multi-billion-dollar company. They become the CEOs of major companies. They do phenomenally well. You even came to US and study under Professor Sigmund. I have so many questions from you. It's just phenomenal experience you have and training, and then you went back and started Spic Macay. What was there any major event, or it was just some series of things happen in your life?
No, it was a series of things, obviously, because it was like the initiation was in IIT Kharagpur when a seed was planted into me, and I didn't even know that the seed was planted. But when I went to Columbia University to do my PhD, there I witnessed a concert by the Dagar brothers, Ustad Nasir Aminuddin Dagar and Ustad Fariduddin Dagar at the Brooklyn Academy of Music in New York.
Wow.
Uh,
And you
that
heard
was
them live?
Yeah. It was something fantastic. It was like the hidden layer of the neural network.
They are like different
You
levels.
don't know what's happening there. You know what's coming in and what's going out. That's all.
What notes just touches your heart, or all the vibrations?
Not only heart, it was like it's touching the heart, but much, much, much more, because our classical music, or all classical music, is very abstract and very subtle, very inspiring, and also, most importantly, very mystical. So what happens is that, and there's a lot of correlation between mathematics, I feel, and classical music.
That was my next question. You just stole my thunder.
Yeah.
That what is the relation between maths and music? Because I hear it all the time, especially with classical musicians and singers. They believe that there is a strong correlation between both. But if you can elaborate, that'll be really huge.
Yeah, there's so many people. I'll of course elaborate, but Manjul Bhargav, he's a concert playing Indian classical musician. He got the Fields Medal in math from Princeton University.
Wow.
So I can name many people. Even our ex-president Abdul Kalam ji used to play the Saraswati Veena, and even Einstein, by the way, used to play the classical violin.
Really? That's a great one. Yeah, even our own Prith Banerjee, he's on our board too. He's amazing sitar player.
Yeah. So what they, they both are very abstract, they both are very subtle, and they both are very inspiring. And I think both are very mystical also. You see, the concept of infinity in maths is fantastic. You can keep on approaching infinity, but you can never actually touch infinity. There's a step jump somewhere. Like I remember going to, in my first year of IIT Kharagpur, when the maths professor came and taught us, he said something beautiful. He said, "Oh, so you all think you're a very smart guys, huh? But don't ever forget that however smart you are on the scale, you're still infinity away from infinity." And
that's such a beautiful.
Yeah. So it was very beautiful because the concept of infinity is something fantastic. And the same concept and whole mathematics, when you go into infinite domain, it changes. You know that, right? So
I mean,
so
infinity and pi are my two favorite terms in a way in maths, because pi
yeah.
is another one. Without that, I think we can't do anything literally if we think about it.
So if you see many things in maths, they are like that. They're very subtle and very abstract. And the concept in classical music is exactly that. I think it also tries to touch infinity, but in a different way, and through music. Like Ustad Fahimuddin Dagar Sahab used to say that when you sing, तुम्हें तुम्हें रे पे जाने की इजाजत. I'll say it in Hindi and then translate it in
Please,
English.
please. No, that's fine.
He used to say that, तुम्हें कई घंटे सा लगाना है. He used to make us do 8 hours of sa, only sa.
Wow.
You couldn't go further. And he used to say that तुम्हें रे पे जाने की इजाजत तब है जब तुम्हें सा का दर्शन हो जाए. So it's not something just like that. It's really something very, very true, in the sense that there's a time when you touch something which is very beautiful. I don't know how to describe it, but even just by doing sa, which I do many hours, even now,
Wow.
you find that when you get that absolutely, there's something very, very different, not even a correct note. It's like, tuning into something which is very beautiful. I don't know how else to describe it.
No, it is. I can relate to that, because there are so many moments in my own life, and I felt like I'm so connected with everything around me, and it's me. I can even see myself. It's just like the meditation when I do, so I can imagine.
It's a meditation, complete meditation. And our classical music is a rare combination of two types of yoga. That is, it has got bhakti, yes, it has got, but more importantly, it has got Gyan yoga in it.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it's a combination of bhakti and Gyan. And the beauty of it is that, where's the Gyan? I'll again give an example of what Ustad Nasir Aminuddin Dagar Sahab used to say. He used to say, look, for doing anything creative, you have to go into domains which others have not gone into,
Mm-hmm.
which many people, you have to try and learn how to see beyond what you can see. I said, there are practices like our classical music that train our minds to go into realms in which you can see beyond what you can see. And how he used to say it was beautiful, I tell you. He used to say that, there are 12 notes in the whole world. We've got 7 notes, sa re ga ma pa dha ni, that's do re mi fa sol la ti, and there are 5 other notes, and they're actually just 12 notes, which are 12 frequencies, basically. Right? You divide a scale into 12 frequencies. But in our country, he said, we have 22 shrutis.
Oh, wow.
We have divided the same scale into 22. He would say, why? So he'd say, look, if I sing Komal Re and I sing Ati Komal Re, will you catch on, Kiran? So I said, Gaiye, sing. So he would sing, and then I said, but I couldn't catch on. So he said, you can't catch on because your buddhi, your intellect is mota, thick. So he said, oh, you'll say that Ustad Aminuddin Dagar Sahab thinks too much of himself just because he can sing the distinction, sing Komal Re and Ati Komal Re. He said, no. He said, if you want to do well in maths, you want to do well in any subject, you have to go into very creative domains. And this is a training of the mind to go into very creative domains. If you can make the distinction between Komal Re and Ati Komal Re, you'll see how well you'll do in maths. So what I'm trying to point out here is there's a lot of science also involved in our classical music. Very deep science, I would say. I wouldn't call it science, but finally science and art, in my opinion, they merge at one point. And it's just a question of going to that point. That's why the great people have said, you don't get a doctor of music or don't get a doctorate in English. You don't get a doctor of mathematics. You get a doctor of philosophy. In brackets, it's written English, or brackets, it's written music. In brackets, it's written mathematics. Because if you go deep into anything, it touches a common chord. That is what I think our ancestors tried to do through our classical arts.
Great. So, Kiranji, I want to talk to you a little bit about your experience working with Professor Sigmund at Columbia when you were pursuing your PhD. That must be such a phenomenal experience, and you almost decided to even quit, and then you went back. So, can you talk a little bit about that, because that may inspire a lot of our young alums?
Yeah, you see, Professor Sigmund was taking this first course in probability, and I was very excited about it, and I said I must go and take this course from this great master. But when he started teaching, everything that he was teaching was going up there, going above my head. So
it reminds me
after
of my
about a
IIT
month, I
days
went
too.
to his So after a month, I went into his chamber and I said, "Sir, I thought I was a bright guy, but I don't seem to understand what you're saying."
Mm-hmm.
No, Kiran, you're doing fine. And he put me out. He said, "You're doing fine." But I finished the course, but I was very disheartened, I would say, because I felt that if I couldn't understand this fundamental course, I don't think I can do a PhD. So what I did was, with all due respects to all those who are in MBA, I joined the Columbia University Business School. And I was there for almost one semester, in fact, a semester. And in that one semester, everything that Professor Sigmund said fell into place like a jigsaw puzzle. And I just ran back and said, I want to continue with my PhD.
So can you tell any interesting story with about Professor Sigmund? And the reason I'm talking about is, mathematics is such a phenomenal and interesting thing for me personally, is of course being an IITian. And my favorite movie is a John Nash movie, is A Beautiful Mind. In fact, I got so interested that I'm executive producer of next Russell Crowe movie, because I just blown away with his acting. So I will love to know a little bit about any story you have with Professor Sigmund.
Yeah, Professor Sigmund, when he finished his undergraduate or graduate, I forget which one, he was offered 2 scholarships. What scholarship he was offered was to do PhD in Stanford University in this math stats probability. And he was offered a scholarship to join the New York Knicks. He was a very, very good basketball player. He was very tall.
Wow.
And an basketball player. So thank God he joined Stanford. Sorry.
Sorry, Knicks.
With all due respects to people who play basketball, he joined Stanford.
Wow.
And one thing about him was that he spoke little, and he was really a deep person. The mathematics to him was, I think, more a means than an end in itself. He had, I think, to some extent, I sometimes feel that he had gone above mathematics. He had gone into realms which were, as I said, very abstract, very subtle, very inspiring, and maybe even mystical.
And math can be mystical, and that's one thing one takeaway
Yep.
for me, math can be mystical, not just music. If you really
Yeah.
understand it, if you really start enjoying it. So fast forward, now you just completed your bicycle yatra from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, right?
Yeah.
That must be
Yeah.
such a phenomenal experience. Any story you would like to share with our audience?
I just like to say, when you are in love, nothing is impossible. That's
Agree.
all.
Agree.
Yeah. What happened was that uh, we were trying to build this movement, Spic Macay, um, trying to share what one had experienced so wonderfully and deeply with other people. It was like a vehicle. And what we found was, in the last 10 years, we could not go above 5,000 events in 1 year in about 500 towns in India and about 50 abroad. It was bobbing around 5,000.
True.
Now, 5,000 might seem a lot, in 1 year, 5,000 events, etc., etc., etc. But in a place like India or anywhere, it's not even a drop in the ocean.
Yeah, I was about to say that. And we're talking about
There's
7
about,
billion people in the world. So,
yeah, there are about 20 lakh institutions. What are we talking about? So I decided, in the spur of the moment, I said, I'm going to cycle from Srinagar to Kanyakumari to try and bring more volunteers and leaders into Spic Macay.
if I knew it, I would have joined you in one city. I can't do the whole, but I would have done 100 miles with you.
No, but what happened was, when I came back that night, had a sleepless night because
Oh,
I said, I've never done this before. How did I say it? I don't know whether I'm going to be able to do it. I was 73 then. I'm now 74. But what I'm trying to say is that I was not at all sure whether I'll be able to do something like this. And it was but I said, now I've said it, so pran jai par vachan na jai, I have to do it somehow. So I decided that I'll do a trial run. I'll go up to Jaipur and then I'll bring back the cycle in the bus and come back. Let me see if I can even reach Jaipur. So I went to Jaipur and then I said, hey, I've reached Jaipur. So let me try to go to Ajmer. So I said, okay. Then I got on the bike again, went to Ajmer. I said, hey, I've reached Ajmer. So I went to Chittorgarh, Udaipur. And at Udaipur, I said, look, I've reached Udaipur. Let me go up to Sabarmati Ashram and pay my regards to that great, great, great person. So
Gandhi.
I reached Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad. Then everybody said, oh, put your cycle into the train and come back. Quickly, you come back. But I said, if I've come all the way, I might as well go back. So I went back through Gyan, through Madhya Pradesh, through Kota, and went back to Rajghat. And this route was about, I think, 2,200 kilometers. So this gave me the confidence to say, look, I think I can do it from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. So on 15th of August, then I decided that I'm going to start from Kashmir, from Srinagar. And of course, there's no doubt it was quite tough. There were many things which were very difficult, but it was beautiful. It was, again, I'll tell you, like a mystical journey, in the sense that cycling alone, I decided to cycle alone because when you cycle alone, it becomes like a meditation. It's no more physical. Physical part becomes automatic, and then you go into realms inside yourself which you don't normally go into. And also, our country is really beautiful. We've got such a beautiful country with so diverse in so many ways, in landscape, in people, in food, and in languages, in religions. What a beautiful country. And I don't think any other place would be that, any other country. Of course, Europe would be like that, but no country like that, one country that I can think of, which would be so diverse and so beautiful in many ways. And But there were a flip side to it also. And the flip side is that we are, like the whole world, becoming more and more superficial, more and more more show than internal growth. I saw many lovely schools, beautiful schools, smart this, smart colleges, smart this, smart that, but not smart inside. And that is a little, I would say,
Concerning.
painful and alarming also, because everywhere I went, the teachers and principals would say that our children have become very indisciplined, have become very rowdy, and uh, what should we do? I said, you make them listen to classical music and you see what will happen. And we also did a small little, we have developed a small little Spic Macay pranayam technique, which is an old thing, but just put in a way that would help the students to concentrate. So all these things one tried to, pass down on the way. Another thing that I noticed was that two other things that I noticed was that we're also becoming a very wasteful society. Lots of wastage of electricity, lot of waste of water, lot of waste of food, which is something which is again alarming. We are not taking the best of the West. We should be taking the best of the West. Let's learn how they do research, how they are able to bring in so many wonderful things which they have done. But we are taking many of the negative things also, negative things. And another thing that was disturbing was that every city that I entered and when I left, there were piles and piles and piles of garbage, which will not go in, I don't know how many, there's plastic stuff which will not go in thousands of years. And it's going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. So all these concerns are there. I learned a lot from this trip. I also learned something about, the great souls that have inhabited this part of the world through going to places where they lived and they, like for example, Ramanujam, what a beautiful place he was staying in, a small little place, and it was really very inspiring. Many such things which have in Kanchi, the
So Kiranji, if I may summarize it for our audience, so this is one thing I really learned from this is you don't know what you are capable of. You decide what you want, and then you figure it out. And you may have to may have changed course here and there, but as long as you believe in yourself, you can achieve it. And what you have done it is, your mouth, my father says, I'm going to show this video to him, and he says, I'm getting old. And I say, what old? My friend, he just did biking from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, or other way around. It's nothing. It's phenomenal what you have achieved and what kind of example you have set for us. This is absolutely amazing. The other thing is, maybe for next conversation, I would like to talk to you about circular economy, or really talking about how can we create a better system going forward. And there's a lot of work happening in West, and I was amazed the kind of work Amsterdam is doing. So it's phenomenal what we can do. And I believe we don't need to do a lot of change. With some minor shift the way we think, and we start doing this garbage can be gold if we process it properly. And we both understand that, but we need to put some infrastructure in place and maybe change some mindset and do that. That'll be very fascinating. But you touch upon a little bit about math and your work with Professor Sigmund. So what kind of what message would you like to give to the next generations of our alum?
don't be in a hurry.
Ah,
You know,
good one.
yeah, you have to be very two great things which uh, I learned uh, from both from Professor Sigmund and from Ustad Nasir Amin Dagar. Very similar things I learned from both of them is that all things of depth take time. You have to be patient and you have to have faith. Faith in the sense that if you think this person really knows what he or she is talking about, have full faith in the person and give your best for it. And you will get something which you won't be able to get anywhere else. Because that's what our system of Guru Shishya relationship was, that it was not learning just an art form or learning any subject. It was taking you to realms which you can't put in a book. You have to just sit at the feet of that person, have faith in that person, and have patience. These two things are what today, which are at a premium, because Twitter, Instagram, the social media
Instant
has
gurus.
made our attention span very limited. And so we can't get anything of depth in that. You can get fleeting information of this, fleeting information of that. But depth comes only when you have patience and a little faith.
So Kiranji, I get it, but reality is we are living in the world of TikTok and Instagram. Now swiping left and swiping right, and even like funny example is Tinder. Swiping right and left, you decide which girl is interesting or which guy is interesting, which is fascinating to me. And we didn't grow up like that. What you think the young generation should do so they can coexist, because they still have to exist in the world of TikTok or Twitter?
You see, what happens is
And don't
you
say
have
that
to.
it is music only. You should give me something better than music.
No, not music. Music is just one. Music is just one road. Our ancestors have devised so many roads to the top of top of inner Mount Everest. It's not, music is just one of the roads. I don't ever say that music is all in all. For your road will be different. Somebody else's road will be different. Each one has to find their own road. But what I'm saying is that you have to first of all accept the fact that there's something beyond TikTok, something beyond Instagram. First of all, you have to accept that. Then what we say is, don't go away from TikTok, don't go away from whatever you're doing, but keep that part in your mind also and look for it a little bit. How will you find something without making an attempt to look for it, right? So I'm not
Curiosity.
saying you have to leave everything, but what you have to do is look for it 1%. Automatically, when you're touched by something, it'll become 2%, then it'll become 5%. Then naturally, it'll keep on increasing. It should not be a forced sort of I have to sit now and do this. No, I'm not talking of like that. But yes, certain amount of forcing for yourself is important. For example, if you fall sick, you will say, okay, now the doctor said you have to take the medicine morning, afternoon, and evening. Now you have to force yourself, even though medicine might be bitter, you have to take it morning, afternoon, and evening. So similarly, you'll have to make an attempt. The basic thing that what I'm requesting young people is that don't just settle for what is there in TikTok or in whatever there is in our social, you know, social sites. Um, you can do all that, listen to all that, but also spend 1% of your time on looking at something beyond. 1% only. Start with 1%. Automatically, you'll find it's so powerful. Look, I was also just like, I used to sing Western music in IIT Kharagpur. So I used to love I still love the Beatles for that matter. Beatles were my favorites. So what I'm trying to say, there's nothing wrong with with appreciating or liking Western pop music or liking all the things that are there. You know, in fact, there's a very nice saying in Hebrew that says that the road to heaven is through hell. You have to experience everything, but automatically what you do is when you keep on experiencing little by little by little, you automatically will say, look, hey, this looks little nicer than this. This looks little nice. So you automatically make your timing accordingly, I think.
Yeah. No, that's very helpful, very understanding. It's fascinating when you were explaining me what I was thinking in my head was it's fascinating that we are so disconnected. We think we are connected, that we call these virtual apps social apps instead of our time when we can just go out and can hang out with anybody, and that was social, or
Yeah.
creating an event, or even doing classical music, whatever. But a lot more activity. But we're living in a very different world. And I sometimes call it instant gratification world, where it's not about everybody around you, where it's always about you, how many likes I get, how many this I get, and how many people like my video on I'm looking good and I'm looking pretty, which is so shallow. But anyway, we live in a different world, and my kids are of that age, so hopefully they will figure it out.
No, tell them, look, one thing I can tell you, like, even nowadays, I found one other thing very, very interesting this time, that, many people are liking cycling. So tell the people who are liking cycling, try also cycling alone. Try cycling alone. I'm not joking. I really found it's a beautiful meditation, cycling alone. Especially when you go into the hinterland, it's like I don't know how to describe it. It's the same experience that you get when you are doing. Uh, I got very similar experience which I did when I um, do classical music, when I do lovely mathematics. I got the same sort of feeling. So it's not
Kiranji, I
one
have a
road.
question for you.
Yeah.
You touch upon this Gyan yoga, and it's for my intellectual curiosity too, and it's for, I'm sure, a lot of people. We grew up hearing these words. If you can decipher it for our generation, that'll be very helpful. What do you really mean by Gyan yoga, and how can we experience it?
You see what is the if you look at life, the best things in life are got how? Not by unbridled freedom. It is freedom in bandhan. That is, you are free, but in a framework, bandhan. What does that mean? The best way of leading life is freedom in bandhan. What is our classical music? It's just that. It's exactly that. Freedom in bandhan. What is the bandhan? The bandhan is saying, look, in this rag, I'm going to have only the komal re. Sa re. Now I go sa re out. You're out. So what you are learning through classical music is 1,000 things, not just music. Music is
That's
just
music.
very small part. You are learning the whole philosophy of freedom in bandhan. The bandhan is there. You have to sing it in a particular way. Nahi to you're out. So that part you have to learn from the guru. What is the way in which you have to sing Rag Multani? What's the way in which you have to sing Rag Bhairav? And a connoisseur will catch you. If you singing it wrongly, no, you can't do it that way. That's the difference between popular singing and classical music. See, popular singing, even if I sing, oh, ha, 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 I can do anything. And it might be very beautiful. I'm not saying, I'm not, I'm not putting down popular music. Yes, popular music is for entertainment. It is very good. However, if you want to be uplifted, you have to go into these regions which only freedom in Bandhan can take, I think. And this is a big philosophy of life which our classical music gives. So that is the intellectual part. Intellectual part is that you don't have to give words. You know, in the alap of our classical music, there are no words. Re, re, te, re, ne, na. So it doesn't make a difference. You are just going through notes and you are saying, look, I'm going to be hitting that note exactly. No, if I don't touch the note exactly, out again. So you know what? There are how many, it was described beautifully by Ustad Fahimuddin Dagar Sahab. He used to say, look at the mind. You say that, I'm of course interpreting it. He used to say, look, how do you determine the power of a computer? Okay, you determine by many things, one of them being the number of parallel processing channels it can execute. Now look at the classical music, the way he used to describe it. He used to say, look, your brain is like a computer, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to bring in many, many channels parallelly, parallel processing. How? It's a, first of all, you have to do sa, right? So what you're doing with the sa, you're actually becoming what he said, you're becoming swar atmak. That means you have to get the sa perfect, the re perfect. So that is swar atmak, the one parallel processing channel. Then what you do is after that, you throw in one more, that is the structure of the rag, broad structure. You will say that, look, in this rag, I can only go from sa to komal re. Sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa, the rag bhairav. So you become ragatmak. You have to be concentrating on that also parallelly. Then he says you have to become layatmak. That is, you can't go like sa re gama gama pada. No, you have to go sa re gama, and you can't change the lay. The lay has to, you have to be layatmak. Then he says once the percussion comes in, then what you have to do is you have to become talatmak. That is, in 16 beats or 12 beats, you have to come back in a circle to that point. So you have to be talatmak. But when the words, you bring in one or two words of the composition, then you have to become bhavatmak. That bhava of that particular composition has to be brought out beautifully. Not only the bhava, but you have also to become swaratmak. You can't say read, you can't say hari, hara. You can't say it like that. You have to be very, very careful on the swaratmak. And last but not the least, he said beautifully, he said you have to be rasatmak. That is, you have to get connected. Yeah.
Connection.
So what I'm trying to say is that, here we are having 7 parallel processing channels happening here. That is where the Gyan Yoga part comes in. The Gyan Yoga is coming in because you have to be concentrating on all these channels parallelly. That is what the idea is.
Wow. That's fascinating. Especially, I love the connection part. That's beautiful. So, Kiranji, I would love to talk to you for hours, but that brings to almost to the end of our segment. Do you have any parting thoughts for our audience?
No, I just want to say that, this is one of the greatest things we can offer to the world. There is Paravidya and Aparavidya. There's nobody to beat Aparavidya than the West. What wonderful things they have done. Space travel, the cell phones which I'm using. What great things have been done. We have to learn all that. But in Paravidya, we are losing that knowledge and wisdom of these internal things which I've just described, one few of them.
Yeah.
So there's a balance between Paravidya and Aparavidya. And what I request everybody, especially the young people, is that while you're pursuing the best in artificial intelligence, the best in, biotechnology, etc., etc., etc. Don't forget that it's balanced with this thing of the internal. If you do the balance, you will be able to do, one will complement the other. You can't say, you'll say, look, oh, how can I spend time in this when I'm doing so much time in that? No, they complement each other. And that part, that balance is what has been sort of disturbed right now, especially in the young people, because I've been teaching in IIT now for, I taught there for almost 46 years. And I've seen the changes that have taken place in many institutions all over the country.
Yeah.
And the changes are, this is a thing of concern to me, that we are only thinking about now, largely speaking, about aparavidya. And what is happening is the other part has become very, very ritualistic. It is not, there's no deep thought process as to why we are doing that thing. We go to a temple, or we go to a church, or we go to a masjid, we put our head down and come back and do the same thing again after that outside. So that's not the idea. The idea is that these places should give you some chintan manan. You have to think about why these people did all these. Why did Ramakrishna, Swami Ramakrishna, or Ramana Maharishi, or any of these great classical musicians do what they did? They lived such simple lives. Why did they do it? This sort of thing should also come in. That's all.
That's fascinating, Kiranji. Thank you so much. For our audience, I have learned so much with the conversation with Kiranji today, but three things really stand out for me. One is, come up with the goal or mission, whatever you want to do, achieve, without even worrying about how you will get there, and you will figure it out one way or the other way. Second is, it's about connecting ourselves with the things we don't really understand sometimes, especially the music or anything in your life. Connection is so important. And the last one is, be curious, because if you are not curious, you won't get anywhere. Kiranji, thank you so much for your time today. I really had an amazing time.
Don't forget faith and patience.
Faith, yes. Faith and patience are very, very important too.
Okay. Bye-bye. All the best. All the best.
Hi, Sanjeev, Kiran Seth. It's good to be here. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Natasha Sohi. I have been associated with Spic Macay for 20 plus years, starting with Delhi, IIT Kharagpur, and through my journey to the US, at Wharton School and beyond. If you went to IITG when I did, I'm sure you would remember me and Spic Macay interchangeably. So last 5 years, I've been, very involved helping lead the North America efforts for us. And I want to talk about three things. One is just giving a quick history of, what we did as Spic Macay North America. Two, where we are now. And three, the most exciting part, how you can get involved. So the North America chapter started over 35 years ago, and it was in 1986. Sunil Malhotraji came to US for studies and then started the first ever chapter in Hartford, Connecticut. And so he organized this wonderful concert by Pandit Raji. And shortly after, I think in the next year, 1987, Ram Rohitji, who was from St. Stephen's back in the day, he started the movement on the West Coast and then really established a strong network in the US with Kiranji. And then he held the first US convention in 1987, I believe, at University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, with help of Thanadaji. And Thanadaji is still with us, and so is Ravoji. And that was a really phenomenal time. So fast forwarding to today, Kiran Seth said, it's like a river. We are now around 15 to 20 chapters in the US. And some examples are Stanford, Cornell, UIUC, UFL. And we want to expand our presence and strengthen where we are already there. So, maybe it's you are at a university yourself, or maybe you are older and you have kids who are now students at these global universities. Perhaps you're a faculty or administrator, and maybe you just love to get engaged, right? Furthering the cause, especially as NRIs, whether you are in US, Canada, or even globally in other countries. So feel free to reach out to me. I would look forward to hearing from you. I'm reachable at Sodhi, SODHI.Natasha, NATASHA, @gmail.com. I am so excited to, work with you. And thank you, Sanjeev and Kiran sir. I think it was a lovely conversation. And have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.